All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We are on week two. We're going to be talking about not some, we're going to be talking about all the readings in which we did. So, week two discussion from rags to literacy. Okay, so I do have my PowerPoint. We're going to try and go through it. You're just going to see some talking points. It's not going to be too much of anything right now. If I decide to post any videos and stuff, I'll probably do it either within the PowerPoint or I'll email you, the usual. So we're on one. We're going on to slide number 2. So first we're going to talk about, let me see if I have the book. Oops, I probably should have that. Give me a second. Whoopsies. Okay. Wild Meat and the Bully Burgers. This book we are going to be reading in the second half of the semester. I love this book. When I was going to Chaminade University of Honolulu, they actually introduced me to this book, and I use it every semester because it's incredible and I love it. Okay. You are going to notice that this book is written in Hawaiian Creole, right? And that's called Pidgin. Okay, Pidgin. You will see that there are a couple videos that I want you to watch to kind of understand the Pidgin dialogue. And it's really important, especially when we talk about literacy and the importance of literacy. What does it mean to be literate? Well, the reason why I have this particular book, and these little readings first instead of getting you into the book just yet, is to really understand, the struggle of what it means to talk proper English, right? And this will be we're going to talk about rags first and then we're going to get into this. But the idea is that this is a published book, but it's not written in quote unquote proper English or perfect English. How is that possible? Okay, that's just the way in which the dialogue is intended in this book so that you can feel it, because language is incredibly important and the ways in which we speak are incredibly important, which means the ways in which we read are incredibly important. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the kind of main points that these readings, both rags and obituary, give to us. So in, let's see here. Which one do we want to do first? I think we're going to do rags. So rags, we're going to start first. Actually, let me tell you that a lot of you are reading this and going, Howley, that's Haole, Howley. What the hell is Howley? Howley is a white person in Hawaii, all right? Or in Pidgin, Howley, that would be me. If I was in Hawaii, I'd be a Howley, okay? In the book, you're going to notice that Lovey wants to be a Howley more than anything. It is like everything to her. She wants to be white. She's actually an Asian, Japanese Asian. She's living in the Big Island, and she struggles because everything she sees online. Whew, this book is way old. It's not online. On television, all the shows that she watches are all, Shirley Temple and shit. Cute little white girls, living in these cute little white people houses. And she didn't grow up like that. That's not what she knows. That's not her normal. And so that makes her assume that because she doesn't look like the people on the TV, and nor does her house, that she must be abnormal. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit later when we start talking even more about identity. But that's another reason why this book is really important to me, because weirdly enough, I related as a kid to this. And I don't know if it's because I grew up in a Hispanic family, we were kind of poor. We didn't have the same things. Like, I remember, you guys know Hydrox versus Oreos? I remember bringing Hydrox because you had to bring food to class. My mom's like, yeah, some Hydrox, take it. And it was like the cheap version of Oreos, and I brought it in, and I was teased for it by the guy I had a crush on. I was like 10. I was mortified. Oh, you brought Hydrox? I can't remember what they said. I just remember getting him, teased by it, and I'm like mortified, and I felt, ugh. Okay, so there's an understanding where in society we shame ourselves, okay? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that here. So Lovey wants to be a Howley. She wants to be white. It's kind of the main goal here. And in this book, you remember the teacher, right, Mr. Harvey? He talks about how, let me see if I've got it in here. Oh, sure, here it is. Okay. He's the English teacher. And this a-hole's going through and telling him, and then I guess maybe this is just the way it was, but he would scold the children for speaking pidgin. Don't you speak pidgin in this class. He would freak out on them. You're never going to get anywhere if you speak that way, okay? And unfortunately, even nowadays, he's not wrong. He's not wrong because of the way our society sets it up for us to be successful, right? You have to speak proper English. And so he shamed them for their culture. That's the part that is the hard. That's the worst part, I think, in all this, is the shaming of the way in which they speak. That's how they grew up. That's who they were. That was their identity, and he was shaming them for that, which is just, to me, horrific. So anyway, he talks about how he doesn't want them to speak pidgin, and he wants them to speak proper English. And he pretty much drills it into them to the point where the kids feel like they're just about to throw up, and having to stand up in front of the class and speak proper, okay? That should have two quotes. Speak proper, okay? All right, so anyway, you'll go through the quiz and you're going to see a lot of different questions involving what this book is, or at least what this particular chapter is saying. One thing I do want to talk about is the way in which there is some bullying in this, right? We have Mr. Harvey bullying the students over the ways in which they grew up, like who they are, and he's shaming them incredibly to the point where they don't even want to be themselves. They hate themselves because of this. Like, that's not, I'm sure how many of us have probably been in elementary school or high school or whatever, and we're shamed for the ways in which we wrote or the ways in which we spoke or who we just were. And I've had students come to me and tell me that's exactly what it was. In fact, one of my coworkers, when I lived in Hawaii, she would do two things. She would answer the phone, right? Cutter Dodge, Pearl City, how can I help you? Right? That's how she'd answer the phone. Well, then the law techs would come up, and the law techs were the guys who worked out on the cars. They'd come up and shake, hey, bro, what you doing tonight? You gonna come talk to me? Hey, let's go down to the beach tomorrow. Let's go down to the beach. We're gonna get treat things right there, right? That was the pidgin. So she would sit there and she'd be talking to a law tech. Hey, brother, oh, man, you're going to come down to my house, right? You're going to take your slippers off when you come into my house. You didn't do that last time, right? She gets this argument. And then all of a sudden the phone rings and she goes, Cutter Dodge, Pearl City. Whoa, right? So she literally had to change from her lifestyle to what society was requesting of her. Okay, she had to change that up in order to sound, quote unquote, professional. Okay? So society does put pressure on us to be a certain way in order to be successful. All right, that is the way in which we have, kind of like put it on ourselves in a sense, or somebody did. I don't know. Schools, society, I don't know. Okay, so that being the case, there's a point in here where Lovey is farting around doing, she's really bad in math class, right? And then she gets teased and she looks over at Phyllis, and Phyllis is sitting there with a little eraser up her nose, right? She's sitting there just like zoning out. And as Lovey's being picked on, what does she do? She turns it around on somebody else, right? She literally bullies someone else to take it off of her. And how many times have we done that? When we feel incredibly insecure about who we are, we look for someone else to pick on and feel bad about. I see this all the time online. They hate their lives, they hate their spouses, they hate their kids, they hate this, they hate that, they hate their parents, I don't know what it is. They're miserable, they hate their job, they hate themselves, they hate their habits, and then they go and they turn around and they take it out on someone else, whether it's a famous person, whether it's someone on their social media, they're like the trolls underneath saying all the terrible shit, just like, I have nothing better to do, so I'm just going to say terrible things and start a fire, woo, and then I don't know, they get a kick out of it. And forgive me if that's something that you do. But we are going to start being mindful of the ways in which we communicate, the ways in which we say and do things, and why. Why do we do what it is that we do? And whenever we're coming at someone else and we're bullying and we're taking it out on someone else, it comes from the insecurities within. It just does. It comes from the fears inside ourselves that, one, we're not going to be good enough, one, that we don't feel good enough, fear that we're not going to get something that we want, someone else has what we want, and we want them to feel terrible. You guys remember the time when they were picking on Megan Fox for having, like, thumb toes? Some bullshit. Like, she's beautiful. Like, why you all have to take the flowers and just rip them apart? Let them be, for God's sake, right? Some people just like to tear down other people because they don't like themselves. And so I want you to be in the habit as we move forward. When you have an instinct to take somebody down, where is that coming from? What insecurity do you feel is that coming from when you have an urge to say ugh to someone? And the reason why I say that is as we move forward and we start responding to people and you have that instinct to say something like kind of snarky, stop yourself and say why. Is it because they just don't think the way that I think, or their beliefs are different than mine? And is it appropriate? Right? That's the biggest thing. Is it appropriate? Was it appropriate for Levy to go pick on Pillis? No, Pillis is sitting there doing nothing. She's just enjoying a little pencil up her nose. And yet, then everyone goes and turns to her and just starts making fun of her. And poor little Pillis, she's this little sweet thing. And she was actually Levy's friend, and yet this is what Levy does to her. Isn't that, and it's not to say Levy is reacting to human nature. And this is what we do. Okay? So anyway, that's kind of what Obituary is talking about, is our insecurities. What's creating them? What are we doing with them? And how are we projecting them onto others, even ourselves? We project these things on ourselves and then we react. Okay, so let's be super mindful of that as we move forward in the things that we do. That includes when we're talking about rags. We're going to be talking about things that are very human. Having your period, super human, right? And it's super weird how like the most human of things we like turn into something taboo, whether it's sex, whether it's sexuality, whether it's, again, having your period, other little things that happen. We create this, farts. I don't know, I'm trying to think of things that like we mock, we make fun of, or however, when in reality this is just what our bodies do. And I think the thing about rags that I feel is probably the most sad is how Levy feels that her body's deceiving her. She's like, oh my God, the period, what the hell is this? Why is this happening to me? I don't want it. Whether or not you want it, that's not the case. Think about this when we move forward and we talk about sexuality and we talk about things that we go through as humans. Most humans probably don't want half the shit that happens to them to happen to them, whether it's an illness or a way of thinking or the way of being. Some of us will fight it to the end because it's not what society wants, it's not what our family wants, it's not what our religion wants, and we just hate ourselves for being born the way we were born. Right? Like brown eyes. My brother got these stark blue, stunning eyes. What? Why didn't I get that? Right? I turned my hair blonde. Well, I go blonde because I got a lot of gray now. It's just all gray. Anyway, right? So we change how we feel and how we look because we're embarrassed of the way in which we were born. We don't look like that. We don't act like that. Our bodies deceive us. We were born this way. We get, and then we get onto other people about what they wear and how they act and all this stuff. And sometimes, you know what? It's just a jackass thing to do. Okay, one thing that I will definitely fight on is what people wear. You know what? Wear whatever is comfortable. When it's hot out and you don't want to wear a lot, whatever. It's the human body. We shame ourselves for the body itself. It's one thing if it becomes inappropriate to where you're like, all right, hold up, walking around naked, maybe not necessarily ideal, mostly because your naked ass is now sitting on that bench I'm about to sit on. I think of health reasons for that, right? So we just have to there is a line I think maybe to draw. I don't know. Even when I say that, I'm kind of like, well, butt crumbles are still a part of life? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know things. I just know at some point we do need to be, accepting of the fact that we are human. Okay, we are human and we make mistakes, right? And we got to get past that fixed mindset and be open and understanding of okay, I gotta look past the things that I thought I knew before and know maybe I really don't know anything at all. And I cannot tell you how many degrees it took me and how much life experience and things that I've seen to get me to go, I was probably wrong about that. Okay, and that's okay. I accept that, I move on, I learn, and we just keep going. Okay, so Levy's upset. Why is Levy so upset? Well, because she was her father's apprentice, right? Levy was going to be the thing that her and her dad, they were just so close. And to have her period instantly put this thing between them. It changed and all of a sudden she was a woman, right? She wasn't just this non-entity. She became a woman. And the parts and the things that make us women, all of a sudden, it's I didn't want that. I didn't want any of that. I just wanted to be my father's apprentice. I wanted to be his thing. And he came at me and said, you're a woman now. It's like, I don't want to be a woman. I don't know what I'm doing here, right? Because then there's this understanding of, in being a woman, there's another level of what it means to be a woman versus just being who Lovey thought she was, okay? And so one thing that drives me crazy is the Kotex scene. All right, I say scene as if it was a movie. They write it well enough. I think it's a movie, right? Okay, so what ultimately happens when Lovey's mother goes and sends her off to the store? Because she goes through all the tampon or the pads, right? She's going through all of them because she's freaking out. She doesn't know what she's doing. Maybe she hasn't had the sex class yet. Again, it's taboo. Don't talk about it. You just kind of guess. I remember guessing at some shit. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. How does this all work? I don't know. Previous to this, I remember my mom took a tampon. She put it under the sink and was like, "What?" I was like, what the fuck is that? What is that? It's like, oh, you put it up there and you do this? Well, I'm not going to do that. If you're a dude, I'm just saying, some of the things as a female, you're just like, I got to do what? With what? And then you get used to it and you're like, this is life. This is what you do. So, I don't get it all over the place. Some of you guys are going, please stop talking about this. I'm not gonna. Because it's human. All of what I'm talking about is very, very human. So anyway, that's the part that kills me about Lovey's mother. What does she make Lovey do on her way back after getting the box of Kotex? She doesn't let her get a bag. And why is that the biggest issue? Because she's trying to shame Lovey. She's trying to mortify her. How many of you have gone to the grocery store and you had to get personal items? I don't know what you're getting, but it's always personal. And the checkout guys sitting there going, beep, 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 beep. They kind of looking at you, judging you a little bit, right? I don't know if they are. I don't know if I would. I try not to. Like when I was doing checkouts before, I don't think about what I'm doing. I just kind of do it. But can you imagine all the things that have come through? You're like, oh, that's interesting. That combination is interesting too. I wonder what they're doing. Okay. Anyway, so the idea here is that her mother was trying to shame Lovey into womanhood in a sense. Like, oh, here's a Kotex. Oh, how embarrassing. You're on your period. That shouldn't be the thing that you should be embarrassed of. If anything, you should be like, hell yeah, I don't have a kid. Yay. And if you have kids, you're like, I totally understand what she's talking about right now. I do not have kids. I'll probably feel bad about that statement later. But to some people, it's something to be embarrassed of when it should be something to be celebrated. It is a very beautiful, healthy thing. Enjoy it while it lasts, right? I've been told about menopause. I'm not there yet. So I don't know. No one's told me about this yet. I'm not of age, I guess. So anyway, so these are all things that I want you to be mindful of, that we are human and we fart, we puke, we get digestive issues, get diarrhea. Like, I'm going to say all the things, we get butt crumbles, you name it, you get it, right? I think those are called dingleberries. If anyone has not read Judy Blume, please read Summer Sisters. You'll really appreciate it, okay? So, yes, I'm saying all these things because I want us to feel comfortable and proud to be human and let our bodies do all the things that our bodies do and just move forward, okay? So, that being said, we're going to move on to Zoe Leonard in her I Want to Dyke for President. And here's the wild thing about this. Do you feel, in reading this poem, do you feel like it's applicable, like right now, what's going on? Like, when would you guess? When would you guess that this is written? That's the question to really understand. This poem was written in 1992. 1992! Were you guys even born then? I don't even know. I was born in 81. I was like very young. 11 years old at this time? Anyway, super young. And the idea behind this is that we haven't changed much in how many years, how many decades, right? What has changed? Not much. I love the dialogue that Zoe uses in this poem. I absolutely love it. And for some of you, you might be reading and going, I don't like these words. There might be a reason for that. And society does put an understanding on certain words. There are words that are not appropriate to use unless it is within your scene, right? So to use the word dyke for Zoe, she uses this word because it's within her box, within her realm, within her people. Okay, Zoe is gay. She's trying to push to let you all understand, like, she wants a true human right? Someone who's lived the human experience to be president. That's what we're trying to talk about here. You know, how many times have people, oh, Trump is a man of the people, but is he? And I only argue that because there's some things that I feel like he has never experienced. Joblessness, waiting tables, working retail, servicing the country, things that if you haven't done, you cannot understand it. That's the truth of it. Unless you've been there, felt it, experienced it, it's really, really, truly hard to say, oh, I totally understand. There's a lot of things that I don't understand myself. Gender identity. Well, in a sense, yeah, when I grew up, I have to admit, I grew up with brothers. I kind of thought I wanted to be a boy. I would dress as a boy. I'd wear boy clothes. I'd try my hardest to put my hair in a hat and all this stuff because it seemed easier. The guys seemed to have a better time. I was the only girl between two boys. It was miserable. I hated being a girl. I got teased for everything. And then when I became a woman, that was even worse, right? That was fun. Right? So yeah, gender idea, it's called gender dysphoria, where you're trying to decide, maybe I was born as it with female parts, but maybe deep down I really am a male. You know what I mean? So, and I can't even talk to that or for that because I haven't personally gone through the ultimate struggle of really trying to figure that out. And for some people, that's really hard to grasp. It's really hard to go, well, you're born a woman, you're a woman. It doesn't work that way. And it has absolutely nothing to do with sexuality. I do want to make that point. Questioning whether or not you feel like you are a woman or a man on the inside has nothing to do about your sexuality on what you prefer, whether it's men or women. That is not the conversation. The conversation is, how do you feel? Do you feel you are a male? Do you feel you are a female? And, what do you do about that? And it is human to have these questions. It is human to try and figure out what is it. Because this, our brain, and what this is, don't always coincide. And it's frustrating and it's maddening. And there's a lot of people who are struggling with this who do not have someone out there to talk to about it. So the idea that I want within this classroom is to be open to the humanness of being human. Okay, not what society says, not what we think we know, not what our religions say, none of that stuff. I don't want that. I want the truth about humanity based on who we are and what we've experienced, because too often we push it away, we ignore it, it creates confusion, it creates anger, and that's not what we want. Okay, so what Zoe is trying to say ultimately is, my God, can we just have a human who's going to help the humans, right? And I honestly, I hate election years because it's like the lesser of two evils, no matter what you'd believe, whether you're Republican or Democrat or whatever the fuck. I hate all of it, really, because I'm not seeing the humanist fighting for humans. I just don't see that. And maybe one day we will get there. Maybe a change will come and we're like, okay, we got to get rid of this and figure something else out because it's not working. Anyway, so the idea is, and however many decades that this poem has been out and about, what has really changed? And some things have, and some of us are starting to go, oh shit, this is like real deal. This is like, I forgot there's other humans who think other ways, and we have to remember that not all people are gonna think the same way. Not all people live the same way. We talk about Wild Meat and the Bully Burgers and the way in which she grows up. How many times has she felt so unhuman because of the way in which society tells her how she's supposed to be, how she's supposed to write, how she's supposed to look? Okay, and especially with social media, one beautiful, glorious thing I love about social media is there's these things that I see where people are pushing past what they thought society wanted from them, and they're being themselves to their utmost, and they're making that beautiful, and I love that. I love when people make their uniqueness and